Hello everyone, welcome to History and Culture. In the autumn of 1957, after more than a year of arduous effort, the archaeological team finally fulfilled their long-held wish. They opened the entrance to the underground palace of the Ming dynasty's Dingling tomb. They ventured deep inside and ultimately discovered the resting place of the Wanli emperor and his two empresses. 3 massive coffins lay quietly before them. This marked the first time since 1949 that China had excavated an emperor's tomb through archaeological methods. As the archaeologists stood in front of these grand coffins and faced 26 boxes of burial items, tears of excitement welled up in their eyes. This was not just a reappearance of history, but a historic moment in the annals of Chinese archaeology. Yet, beyond the excitement lay an even greater challenge. How should they open the coffins? How could they scientifically preserve these precious artifacts? What kind of historical evidence was buried in this underground treasure vault? And what secrets, hidden for centuries, were waiting to be uncovered? It's important to understand that burial items in imperial tombs are typically the most abundant, luxurious, and historically valuable. These objects often represent the concentrated wealth of a dynasty, sometimes even several dynasties, and showcase the pinnacle of craftsmanship and artistry of the time. They are truly national treasures. To unlock this mystery, the archaeologists made a cautious decision. They would first open the coffin on the right, which belonged to Empress Xiaojing. This was because her coffin was the most severely damaged, if not addressed promptly. The sudden environmental changes in temperature and humidity after the underground palace was opened could accelerate the decay of both the body and the burial artifacts. Thus, the emergency excavation of Empress Xiaojing's coffin became the most urgent task at hand. Inside the underground palace, it was cold, damp, and pitch dark. Only a small generator provided limited lighting. Under the dim glow, the archaeologists gathered solemnly around Empress Xiaojing's coffin. The atmosphere was tense and reverent. Once all preparations were in place, a command was given, and the outer coffin boards were removed. Due to the severe decay and collapse of the Empress's coffin, the dismantling process was not difficult. Soon, a relatively well-preserved inner coffin was revealed. Next came the most critical moment, cautiously opening the coffin itself. What would they find inside? Would they be faced with horrifying skeletal remains? Or a pile of decayed, unrecognizable fragments? Everyone's mind was filled with questions. At last, the coffin lid was slowly lifted, and the mystery was unveiled. The first thing to catch their eyes was a goose-yellow brocade quilt, neatly laid inside the coffin. Looking closely, one could still see faded vermilion Buddhist script patterns on the surface, though the text had become too blurred to decipher due to the passage of time. Lifting the brocade quilt, they still found no body. Instead, the space beneath it was packed with all kinds of brocades, gold wares, silver ornaments, jade artifacts, a dazzling array of exquisite burial items. At that moment, a common thought crossed the minds of the archaeologists. This isn't a coffin, this is a delicate treasure chest. Each burial object was crafted with remarkable skill, glittering with opulence and magnificence, reflecting the noble status of the Empress. Everyone couldn't help but wonder. If the Empress's coffin was this luxurious, what kind of awe-inspiring scene awaited within the Wanli Emperor's own coffin? Pushing aside their swirling thoughts, the archaeologists pressed on with their investigation. Beneath the brocade quilt, they found 2 well-preserved garments. One was a yellow satin jacket with a cross-collar design, sewn with gold thread. The other, a yellow satin long skirt, modern in style and vibrant in color. These 2 outfits were the most precious and best preserved among nearly 200 pieces of clothing and textiles unearthed from the Dingling tomb. Their value lay not only in their excellent condition, but also in the use of full-piece embroidery techniques. The garments were embroidered with intricate and vivid images of the 100 Boys motif, so exquisite that they left the team in awe. Next, after uncovering the 100-child robe and the final 2 cotton quilts in the coffin, Empress Xiaojing, this woman who had endured countless hardships, finally appeared before the world. Her flesh had long since decayed, leaving only a skeleton lying quietly in the coffin. Her head rested on its side facing south, her posture resembling that of a person in deep sleep. Her hair was still adorned with gold, jade, and gemstone hairpins and ornaments. When the excavation team attempted to remove her remains and place them into a specially prepared wooden trough, the skeleton disintegrated at the slightest movement. Only the lower limbs remained slightly connected due to preserved ligaments, while the rest collapsed completely. In the end, the team had to gently pick up each piece and carefully reassemble them one by one. During the process of moving the remains, they discovered that beneath the empress were layers of paper and copper money, a common funerary custom in ancient China. People believed that life in the afterworld also required money, and these coins served as her living expenses in the other world. Yet, looking at the pile of dried and scattered bones before them, and those coins that seemed to have traveled through time, one could not help but feel deeply moved. In the end, life is but a fleeting illusion. All the gold and silver in the world cannot be taken with you. Underworld money is merely the living's blessing and tribute to the deceased. After completing the excavation of Empress Xiaojing, the archaeological team turned to another coffin, that of Empress Xiaoduan. Compared to Empress Xiaojing's, Empress Xiaoduan's coffin was much better preserved, crafted entirely from precious golden Nanmu wood. Upon opening the coffin lid, the archaeologists were surprised to find 4 pieces of jade placed outside the coffin. These jade pieces varied in size and were inscribed with characters. In fact, a total of 27 such jade pieces were found around the 3 coffins of Dingling Mausoleum. So why were so many jade artifacts placed in the tomb? What was their purpose? In ancient Chinese belief, jade was not only decorative but also a sacred object with anti-corrosive properties. It was believed that jade could prevent a corpse from decaying. As recorded in the Book of Han, a piece of jade in the mouth, to resist transformation. Thus, jade burials were commonly practiced by royalty and nobility. The earliest jade burials involved placing small jade pieces on the face. Over time, this evolved into full-body coverage with jade, eventually leading to the creation of the jade suit, a burial shroud made of thousands of jade plaques sewn together with gold or silver threads, fully encasing the body. The most famous example of this is the gold-threaded jade suit, unearthed from the Han tombs in Mancheng, Hebei, worn by Prince Liu Sheng and his wife. Their bodies were not only dressed in jade suits, but their mouths, noses, eyes, and ears were all filled with jade, representing the peak of jade burial craftsmanship. However, reality often shatters fantasy. When the tomb of Liu Sheng and his wife was opened, though the jade suits remained intact, their bodies had long turned to dust, leaving only fragments of bone and debris. Returning to Empress Xiaoduan, the internal structure of her coffin was similar to that of Empress Xiaojing's, also covered with quilts and accompanied by burial objects. After all the layers were carefully removed, Empress Xiaoduan's remains were finally revealed. Her skeleton was relatively well preserved, still lying on her side facing south, like a noblewoman in peaceful slumber. Her hair was adorned with gold and jade hairpins, even more luxurious than those of Empress Xiaojing. Many of the ornaments were inlaid with emeralds and cat's-eye stones, gleaming brightly. Beneath her was a quilt sewn with exactly 100 gold coins, each inscribed with the words, "Ward off disaster and extend life." On either side of the quilt, numerous gold ingots were neatly arranged. Luxurious burial goods not found in Empress Xiaojing's coffin. With the coffins of the 2 empresses now opened, the next target was the coffin of Emperor Wanli himself. This controversial emperor, who reigned for 48 years during the mid to late Ming dynasty, What astonishing secrets and stories lay hidden in his coffin? It is worth noting that, right after the two empresses' coffins were fully cleared, the excavation work suddenly came to a halt. The archaeologists left the damp and chilly underground palace, returning to their respective posts to participate in the widespread social movements of that special era in China. This pause lasted for a full 6 months. Only 6 months later, when the dim lights of the underground palace flickered back to life, did the excavation resume. This time, the most urgent task was to open the coffin of Emperor Wanli. His coffin was enormous, 3.9 meters long, 1.8 meters wide and tall, almost like a small room. The coffin was so high that archaeologists had to set up ladders. As the outer coffin boards were removed, a Nanmu wood inner coffin, the Emperor's Xianzhong Imperial coffin, was revealed. A piece of yellow silk was draped over the coffin lid, embroidered in gold thread with 6 large characters. Imperial Xianzhong of the late great emperor. With a loud crack, the heavy coffin lid was pried open. It took over a dozen team members, working together, to lift it aside. At last, the coffin of Emperor Wanli had unveiled its long-hidden mysteries. Inside the coffin lay a dazzling array of treasures. A golden embroidered brocade quilt shimmered brilliantly, and all kinds of gold, silver, jade objects, and embroidered dragon robes were piled high within. The radiant glow was overwhelming, leaving the team members momentarily unable to even open their eyes. The sheer quantity and variety of these burial items were astonishing. Even more impressive, they were so well preserved that it seemed time had left no trace on them. As they lifted the quilt and moved aside the artifacts, they uncovered layer upon layer of luxurious garments, Daoist robes, inner garments, and vibrantly colored dragon robes stacked atop each other, wrapping around the remains of Emperor Wanli. Upon reaching the 11th layer, the team found a neatly folded brocade quilt. Carefully opening it, they finally saw the skeletal remains of Emperor Wanli. Just like the two empresses before him, Emperor Wanli's body had long since decayed, leaving only a complete skeleton. His arms were slender, with a string of prayer beads still adorning one arm, a jade belt tied at the waist, and his hair styled in a bun that had remarkably retained its form. Yet no matter how noble the status or how glorious the past, in that moment, all that remained before their eyes was a silent skeleton lying at rest. So, what hidden historical insights could archaeologists uncover from the remains of these 3 imperial figures? Through detailed skeletal analysis and laboratory tests, researchers discovered that Emperor Wanli had suffered from significant oral health issues. However, the wear on his teeth was very mild, indicating that the food he consumed during his lifetime was extremely refined, requiring little chewing before swallowing. Furthermore, both Emperor Wanli and Empress Xiaojing showed signs of wedge-shaped defects on their teeth, a condition in modern medicine often caused by improper brushing techniques. This indirectly proved that toothbrushes were already in widespread use within the palace during the Wanli reign of the Ming dynasty, an important revelation in the study of ancient Chinese daily life. Even more intriguingly, it was found that Emperor Wanli had a slightly hunched back during his lifetime. Based on the skeleton, his height was estimated to be around 1.64 meters, slightly shorter than the average modern man. The information revealed by these remains significantly enriches our understanding of Emperor Wanli's historical image. In addition, when the excavation team lifted the cotton padding beneath the emperor's remains, a new and astonishing discovery appeared before them. The coffin interior was neatly lined with a layer of exquisite silk brocades. The quantity and craftsmanship were so extraordinary that everyone was stunned. Upon careful inspection, the team counted a total of 69 pieces of brocade. Such a large-scale and high-standard burial of silk textiles is extremely rare among all the imperial tombs unearthed around the world. Each piece of brocade came with a paper tag indicating its name, place of origin, weaving technique, and date of production. Although the writing on most tags had faded, the information they carried was still of great research value. This collection of brocades not only included a full range of types, but also showcased classic patterns dating back to the Han and Tang dynasties, representing the pinnacle of Ming dynasty silk weaving techniques. For the study of ancient Chinese textile technology and artistic styles, this was an extremely valuable set of physical artifacts. Later, archaeologists unanimously agreed that these 69 pieces of brocade were the most precious treasures among the more than 3,000 artifacts unearthed from the Dingling Mausoleum, of incomparable value. After the brocades were carefully removed, the team was delighted to find yet another surprise: 79 gleaming gold ingots were stacked beneath them. Each gold ingot had inscriptions on the back, recording the date of submission, the taxpayer, referred to as a gold household, and the name of the goldsmith, offering clear evidence of the strict and wealthy nature of the Ming imperial fiscal system. Next to the right side of Emperor Wanli's skull, there was also an inconspicuous small round box, which was initially mistaken for an ordinary artifact. It wasn't until the excavation was nearly complete that archaeologists realized it contained a heavyweight treasure, a glittering, finely crafted gold crown. This series of dazzling discoveries made the archaeological work at the Dingling Mausoleum especially illustrious. From the start of the excavation in May 1956 to its near completion in July 1958, the process lasted 2 years and 2 months. However, what followed was deeply heartbreaking. Due to the immaturity of archaeological preservation technology at the time, and the social upheaval of that era, many of the well-preserved silk textiles suffered various degrees of damage due to improper storage. Some brocades became moldy, others wrinkled. Some gradually became brittle upon exposure to air, eventually shriveling like walnut husks, dry, fragile, and crumbling at the slightest touch. Even more tragic was the fate of the remains of the 1 emperor and 2 empresses. During the Cultural Revolution, their bones were completely burned, and the massive Nanmu coffins were casually discarded in mountain gullies, smashed and taken by local villagers to be used as firewood or timber. This is the History and Culture channel. Liking and subscribing are the greatest help and support to us. Thank you everyone, and see you in the next time.